Imagine a small plane, 5 friends, a routine flight. But something goes wrong. The sky darkens, the instruments go haywire, and an unknown force drags them into a nightmare where time and reality start playing by their own rules. The movie opens with a small plane piloted by a woman carrying 2 parents and their young son. Suddenly, thick fog engulfs the sky, and the plane hits turbulence. The parents try to stay calm to avoid scaring their child, but his face changes. And in the next moment, something crashes into their plane, sending them plummeting from the sky. Years later, a young woman named Sara tells her father she's heading to a concert with friends, but rushes to an airfield where her best friend, Mel, her boyfriend Sal, and her cousin Cory are waiting. Sara proudly shows off the keys to a plane, having recently earned her pilot's license. Then her boyfriend, Bruce Parker, arrives. Sara introduces him to the group, but Sal sours the moment by mentioning that Sara's mother died piloting a similar plane. Still, the group heads toward the aircraft. Sara notices Bruce hesitating to board the plane. She reassures him, saying these are their last weekends together before life pulls them apart. Bruce asks her not to use the word last, as it stirs unsettling memories. The plane taxis to the runway. Sara gets clearance for takeoff, and she announces the flight will take 90 minutes. Sal immediately cracks open an energy drink, despite Mel asking him to wait. But Sal does what he wants, ignoring her. The friends reminisce about a trip from the previous year, while Bruce asks Sara how many times she's flown this plane. She admits she has little experience, but assures him she's got it under control. Suddenly, Sal finds a parachute, but Sara doesn't know who left it in the cabin and asks him not to touch it. The plane takes off, and no one notices a bolt in the tail section starting to loosen.
Shut up, Brownie!
In the air, everyone marvels at the views, but the plane suddenly shakes, and Bruce grows nervous. Cory pulls out a guitar to lighten the mood. Sara switches to autopilot and, to cheer Bruce up, mentions the gift she gave him. It turns out Bruce collects old comic books, and Sara gifted him one before the flight. To calm him, she suggests he take the controls. Though scared, Bruce agrees, but when they hit turbulence, he loses control, causing the plane to dip and then climb sharply. Furious, Sal picks on Bruce, snatching his comic book, tearing out a page, and tossing it on the floor, mocking a grown man for reading comics. Mel grabs the book from Sal and finds a bus ticket to Montreal inside, revealing Bruce's secret. He's planning to move, but doesn't know how to tell Sara. Mel is upset but decides to deal with it later. Just then, the dispatcher warns of a storm front ahead. The plane starts shaking, and Sara can't stabilize the altitude because the tail elevator is unresponsive, forcing the plane to climb endlessly. She tries to regain control, but they enter the storm and radio contact cuts out. The plane flies in total darkness, lit only by lightning. The instruments show an impossible altitude of 20,000 miles. Sara desperately tries to call for help, but the radio is silent. The frightened friends start pointing fingers. Is it Bruce's fault for touching the controls and possibly breaking something? Or Sara's, since she's a novice pilot? Sal throws a fit, which Mel tries to calm. She suggests turning on their phones to contact the dispatcher, but there's no signal. The plane slows down, so Sara increases power and asks Bruce to find the plane's manual under his seat. This sparks arguments, as everyone assumed Sara knew how to fly confidently. Bruce finds a section on maximum lift weight, and the group calculates they're over the limit. To save fuel, Sara orders them to toss out anything unnecessary. Cory throws out his guitar, and the others ditch their bags. At that moment, Sal sees something terrifying outside but can't explain what it is. The plane becomes lighter, but the system still malfunctions. Sara warns they have less than an hour of fuel left, and Sal remembers the parachute. He suggests drawing lots for the parachute, giving one person a chance to survive, but Sara points out they don't know who packed it or if it's safe. Plus, they have no idea what altitude they're at, and none of them have ever parachuted, so it could be a death sentence. Cory hands the parachute to Mel, but Sal objects, even though Mel is his girlfriend. He insists on deciding who gets it. A fight breaks out between the guys, escalating into a brawl.
Still fight! Fight in the saloon! Fight!
The girls barely manage to stop it. Sara yells at them to pull themselves together and follow her lead, or they'll all die. Silence falls, but Bruce has a panic attack, screaming that they'll die like them. without explaining who them is. He tries to grab the controls and Sal has to knock him out with a chokehold. Sara explains that Bruce's parents died in a plane crash and he's terrified of the same fate. The guys suggest tying Bruce up to prevent further harm. Cory, who has climbing gear, offers a rope and they bind Bruce's hands. Wait, didn't they throw out all the bags? Sara explains that the damaged elevator will keep the plane climbing until they pass out from oxygen deprivation and crash. The de-icing system is also broken, making the plane heavier and hastening the end. The only way to fix the elevator is to climb outside and manually clear the obstruction. Cory, an experienced climber, volunteers. He ties a rope around himself, with the other end secured to Sal. Mel says goodbye to Cory and kisses him, which Sal sees. Cory climbs outside and struggles to reach the tail, but the wind knocks him off. The rope holds him, and he dangles behind the plane. Sal pulls Cory back toward the tail, where he fixes the issue, restoring control. But Sal still needs to pull Cory back inside. He leans out the open door, reaching for Cory's hand. Cory tries desperately to grab Sal's hand, but slips back into the darkness, held only by the rope. Sal sees the rope tightening, threatening to pull him out, and spots something horrifying in the clouds. In a panic, he cuts the rope, and Cory falls. Learning of her cousin's death, Sara sobs, unable to process it. Sal insists the rope snapped and claims a tentacle dragged Cory away. He demands Sara land the plane, and she promises to do her best. When Bruce regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up and learns Cory is dead. Mel accuses Sal of murder, having seen him cut the rope. Sal defends himself, but Mel screams that Cory saved them. Sal insists he saw a monster's tentacle, still out there. Bruce asks to be untied and tells Sara his parents died in a plane crash, but he survived by falling into a lake, though he broke half his bones. A childless family adopted him, and he became a Parker. He knew who Sara was, but didn't want her mother's role in his parents' death to affect their relationship. He loves her, and they're meant to be together. Sara refuses to listen and tries the radio again, hearing only strange static. Sal recognizes the monster's cries. Though the others don't believe him, he points to the altimeter, which shows they're impossibly high, yet the plane is descending. Mel recalls that Sara's father works on a secret project. They wonder if they're part of an experiment and never took off. But Sara says her father doesn't know they're flying, and his ghost plane theory is dismissed by scientists. Bruce adds that an unknown plane hit them and vanished. Sal suggests testing reality, and at that moment, the plane flies into a monster's maw. Sara finds herself in her childhood, on a meadow with her mother, staring at her airplane-shaped pendant. Then she hears Mel's cries, begging her to wake up and save them as something hits the plane. Sara snaps back and rushes to the controls. The plane spins, and she barely stabilizes it. Mel sobs from fear and exhaustion as the monster's roars echo around them. Sal shouts that the creature has them. Mel suddenly feels faint, and Sal can't revive her. Bruce frees himself from the ropes and performs CPR. Mel comes to. Bruce looks at a comic book page showing tentacles grabbing a blonde woman. At that moment, a tentacle smashes through the window and drags Mel away. Bruce flips through the comics, stunned. Sal attacks him, blaming him for Mel's death, and tries to throw him out of the plane. Sara knocks Sal out. In the chaos, Sal falls out the door and vanishes into the stormy sky. Sara realizes her father always knew she'd die like her mother. She was never allowed to see her mother's body and thought learning to fly would bring her back. Bruce says it's all because of him. His mind manifests what he imagines. As a child, he saw a plane on a magazine cover and pictured it flying toward them, and it happened. Now he's looking boosh comic, and the same thing is unfolding. It happens when he's terrified. The creature attacks the plane. Sara demands Bruce stop it. He tries, but it worsens, and a massive air squid grabs the plane. Sara kisses Bruce, the sky clears, and the monster vanishes. The radio picks up a signal, but Bruce doubts the sincerity of her kiss, and storm clouds return. Sara tries to reach Bruce, but he panics, and tentacles grab her. She begs him to bring back her parents. Bruce focuses, the monster disappears, and Sara falls back into the plane. The sky clears, and the plane escapes the storm. They see another plane heading toward them, carrying Bruce, his parents, and Sara's mother. Together, they grab the controls and avoid a collision. In the altered past, Sara's mother and Bruce's family reached their destination safely. Though shaken by the strange plane they encountered, Sara's father and young Sara meet them. As the adults discuss the odd incident, the children, Sara and Bruce, hold hands and look at the sky. Altitude 2010 leaves you with mixed feelings. On one hand, the idea of a mysterious supernatural force trapping the heroes in a plane amid an impending disaster is intriguing and creates a claustrophobic atmosphere. The concept of a time loop, where the characters' actions in the past and present intertwine, could have been the foundation for a gripping sci-fi thriller. But sadly, the execution falls short. The special effects look dated, even for 2010. And the plot holes leave more questions than answers. What happened to Sara and Bruce in the present? How did their actions affect the past? Is this really a time loop, or just a chaotic ending left to the viewer's imagination? My take: the movie is worth watching for its tense, confined vibe and the filmmaker's attempt to play with time. But it doesn't live up to its potential. In an era where audiences expect polished visuals and tight storytelling, Altitude feels like a 90s low-budget project. If you enjoy obscure sci-fi thrillers with open-ended conclusions, it might hook you. But if you're looking for clear answers and spectacle, you'll likely be disappointed. Ultimately, Altitude is a curious but flawed experiment that could have been so much more with better execution.